So today we are going to continue our study of volume, and we are going to be looking at volume of spheres. And by the end of this lesson, we will be able to answer the question of how do we calculate a volume of a sphere. So first, let's look at what a sphere is. So this is it. What does it remind you of? For me, I think basketball, okay? Any type of ball. You may see earth, okay? So anything that is completely round. So this is an ideal example of a sphere, okay? And this is our formula for finding the volume of a sphere. Its volume equals that 4/3 times pi times r, which is our radius, and this here means cubed, okay? So what do you notice this does not have that when we calculated our volume of our cylinder and our cone did? Did you notice this does not have that big B, that area of a base? And it makes sense because when you look at this, really, is there really a base? No. Okay. So here with volume of spheres, there is no, I still call it big B, there's no big B in the formula for the volume of a sphere. The only variable that we need to find and substitute is our r, which is our radius. Okay. And once we find the radius, we're just going to plug it into the formula that V equals 4/3 pi r cubed to find the volume of the sphere. Okay. Now, it's important to know that when we calculate the volume of a sphere, we are calculating this entire area in here, okay? We're entire, what is the capacity of this entire thing? Sometimes we may be given what is called a hemisphere, and this is what a hemisphere looks like. You should have learned in your science class, you may have the northern and the southern hemisphere. Well, what is that? That's just half. That's exactly what this is here when we do volume, okay? So a hemisphere is simply half of a sphere. So to find the volume, we're still going to use the volume formula of volume equals 4/3 pi r cubed. The only difference now is because we are talking about a half when we are looking at a hemisphere, we're just going to divide the entire answer by 2. That is the only difference. So let's look at some examples and let's walk through how we find volume of a sphere. So here is our first example. We put the formula up here for you. The only thing that we need to know from this sphere is what is the radius. And great thing, they gave it to us right here. So we've already identified the r. That's the only thing that we need to identify here. So now I'm going to plug this into the formula. Okay, so I have my 4/3. Okay, that's part of the formula, 4/3. And we're just going to use Desmos. Times our pi, and remember we're going to hit that Desmos key pi, and I'm going to substitute in my r value, which I receive as 2.5, and I'm going to cube it. Now, if you recall from volume here, this cube just means repeated multiplication. So to cube that 2.5, it just means we are going to multiply 2.5 by itself 3 times. So 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. So now let's put this into our trusty Desmos calculator. So go ahead and open Desmos. I'm going to walk through it while I do it. And I'm going to put in 4 divided by 3. Notice in Desmos, it's going to pop up as a fraction. I'm going to move my cursor over. I'm going to hit the pi symbol that's located on the bottom of my keyboard. And then I'm going to multiply this. I'm going to type in 2.5. Okay. And now we are not going to go to the squared button because we need to cube it. It's not that A to the power of 2, it's the one next to it. Do you see the button that says A to the power of B? You're going to hit that button. Notice now your cursor is flashing above that 2.5, and you're going to type in 3. Okay. And what did you get as the answer rounded to the nearest hundredth? Well, if you're like me, I got something to the effect of 65.44984. So rounded to the nearest hundredth, it's 65.4. Rounded to the nearest hundredth is 2 decimal places after 4, 5. And now I'm going to put in my label. I'm dealing with inches, and because it's volume, 3-dimensional space cubed. So let's look at number 2 together. Okay. So first I'm going to identify the shape. Well, looking at the shape, looks like a basketball. So we know this here, this is a sphere. Okay. So only one thing I need is I need the radius. But what did they give us? Yeah, hopefully you recognize they gave us the diameter, which is the entire length across that sphere here. So to find radius, just like we found radius in our cylinders and our cones, we are going to take the diameter, which is 30, and divide that by 2. So our radius is 15. Now I'm going to go up into our formula, and looking at our star chart, our formula is 4/3 times our pi and our radius cubed. And I'm just going to substitute in. So once again, I'm going to rewrite the 4/3, the pi, and my radius now I know is 15. And I'm just going to cube this. So now I'm going to go back into my Desmos calculator, and I'm going to retype that in, 4/3, the pi button, and put in 15, and I'm going to raise it to the 3rd power. And I'm hoping you're like me. I got 14137.1669412. We're going to round that to the nearest hundredth. So I have 14137.17. And I'm going to give it a label, millimeters cubed. Let's look at number 3. So notice number 3, what did they give us? Well, it's still a sphere, but do you remember what this called? Yeah, they only give us half of it. So this is what we refer to, this is what a hemisphere. Okay. So the first step is always the same. We're going to identify the shape. Okay, we know it's a hemisphere. And we're going to identify the radius. So they did, in fact, give us radius here. So we are going to put this into our volume formula. So we have 4/3, right, pi, our radius cubed. And now I'm going to substitute in what I have for my radius. 4/3 pi. My radius is 17.5. And I'm going to cube that. So go back into your Desmos. We're going to type that in. Okay. And what I have is I have 22,449.2975038. Okay. But we're not done. Do you remember why we're not done? Because they only gave us a hemisphere, which is half of the sphere. So once we get this, we're going to divide this by 2. Okay, so we can take this entire thing and divide this by 2. And when we half this, we receive the volume of this hemisphere rounded to the nearest hundredth is 11224.65, and we're going to give it a label, centimeters cubed. If no one's told you today, you're doing an amazing job, and you are amazing mathematicians.